Welcome to the STARS webinar. My name is David Orn. I'm Director of Programs and Communication at STARS. We have over 80 participants joining today's webinar. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. Today we talk with Sauvik BANERJJJee about leading digital disruption at Tata. Sauvik is Chief Technology Officer of Tata Digital and advisor to various group committees of Tata Group. He is a tech evangelist and entrepreneur by heart. He has built and sold 2 successful startups and has been ranked right at the top of global CTO rankings. Before joining Tata, Sauvik has worked for companies like Infosys, Accenture, and SAP. At SAP, Sauvik was CTO for SAP Global's omnichannel and digital vertical. Sauvik is one of only 6 people in the world to have worked on all global omnichannel platforms, and he has been responsible for numerous disruptive innovation ideas in technology and omnichannel commerce in particular. Sauvik serves on the board of several companies, and he also mentors startups in India on building successful business models. He continues to focus on innovation in the areas of AI, IoT, applications across industries, as well as on hoverboard, lunar missions, and smart cities. Good afternoon to you, Sauvik. Great to see you, and thank you for making time for STARS.
Thank you for such a wonderful and a lovely introduction, David.
We now have 30 minutes to discuss with Sauvik. I shall take the privilege of asking the first couple questions. In the meantime, if you have any questions for Sauvik, please use the Q&A feature below to type in your question. So let's get right into it. Tata Group was founded over 150 years ago, and today across its many subsidiaries, it has over 720,000 employees. So how does Tata Digital fit into this big picture? What is the mission of Tata Digital?
It's a very interesting question. See, our group has got 112 organizations, TCS being one of them. And as you rightly said, 150 years it has taken a group which is a conglomerate, and everywhere in the world we have our branches. When we were looking at India, the intent was to see what is the next and the future of certain avenues of the group. We did a lot of research. We realized that a Tata Group has a wonderful ecosystem already built in. Out of 1.4 billion people in India, 650 million are Tata Group customers of various brands. So we are kind of like the backbone of the country, if you may call it. But what was more interesting is we have a lot of ecosystem cluster in financial services, in terms of retail. So what we intended to do was build a company which will focus on creating digital and internet platforms, primarily tech product powered by data, for B2B, B2C, B2C2B. I'll leave it at that because it's a very young business. So that's the overarching principle why Tata Digital's mandate is.
So besides the Tata Digital platform to incubate and scale new digital platforms, Tata obviously also needs to transform its existing business to make it ready for an AI and data-led future. From your experience, what have you experienced to be the biggest challenges and opportunities for the digital transformation of Tata?
See, this answer would have been in 2 folds. One is pre-COVID, one is post-COVID. I'll give you the pre-COVID answer first, and then I'll give you the view on post-COVID. See, in pre-COVID, our intent was to focus our leadership, our group company leaderships. Their intent was that consumers are primarily leading their life through the palm and thumb of their hands, right? Whether it's B2B, whether it's B2C. They're from healthcare to financial services to retail. Transformation was ongoing and in various speed and velocity between. See, you have to understand our group has got 40 to 50 odd in organizations which are listed across the country, across the world. So every group company has their own P&L. And they have their own roadmap of transformation, whether it's a ERP transformation, whether it's a logistics supply chain or a manufacturing transformation. And it's not only technology, it's people, process, and technology. And a big part is in the mind share of the mind space of transformation is not easy. It's actually the transformation of your mind in the leaders, in the people, the processes needs to be transformed. And of course, technology is a very strong instrument and enabler. Different group companies have got different roadmaps of transformation. They're all ongoing. I think there was a 2025 charter, which all the organizations are following. And of course, TCS leads the way, making other non-Tata Group transform across the world. And TCS themselves are become one of the largest organizations in the world. So yeah, I think a lot of breadth and depth of experience is there. We are in a journey, and transformation is never overnight. Transformation is primarily focused on predictive thinking, predictive data, projective data, forecasting data by deep neural network capabilities. But there is a human part to that as well. How does the next generation of Tata Group adapt these deep tech while they transform, how they use and contextualize it, and they use it for the best benefit for their own selves and fundamentally for our customers, which benefits our customers the most.
Just to follow up on that, as a conglomerate, I understand that each Tata company operates independently, as you just said,
Absolutely.
under guidance and supervision of their own BOD and shareholders, of course. So is each Tata company pursuing digital transformation at its own speed or own roadmap, as you said?
Yeah,
Or
actually, you're right.
Top-down or like a group-wide coordinated approach?
No, so there are some initiatives which are group-wide, but primarily all of them have their own transformation roadmap. There is a lot of synergy. We believe that the mantra we are following is the mantra of one Tata. Because we are a federated conglomerate, the one Tata ethos is extremely important to us because we are a very strongly charitable organizations. Our group profits go to charity for the last X decades. So the one Tata model is the theme. Yes, every group company has got its own roadmap on transformation. There are certain initiatives have primarily a set of synergies. Retail might have a set of synergies. There are clusters of financial services, retail, healthcare. Certain synergies are there in initiatives, but primarily individual organizations have their own because they have been all formed at various different times in the last 100, 150 years. So their maturity levels of becoming a Tata Steel or a airline aviation business or Tata Motors and JLR acquisition, they all have their own roadmaps. We are trying to build certain synergies which keeps the core theme together.
So as a group then, Tata increasingly focuses on digital transformation as a growth strategy for the future.
Yes.
Looking at Tata's various and very different subsidiaries, which industry verticals do you see losing revenue and where do you see growth potential in the coming years?
I think the overall group is moving towards a very proactive and a very constructive way to lead up from the front in the country and across the world. And various times, again, I said pre-COVID, there was an answer. Post-COVID, of course, everyone in the world is affected, but we see this as an opportunity. We see this as an opportunity to innovate newer operating models, newer business models, but keeping low cost, keeping our costs conserved so that we don't keep our people without keeping our eye on core attrition, so that, we don't lose out on great talent. So I think primarily the objective, what we are following is, one, there are three pieces. We continuously innovate and continuously experiment of newer operating models, especially in this current climate. We continuously make cost as a very key optimization driver so that we have exhaustive way to focus on which industries we want to push. Of course, that's a group leadership call. And the third part is people. People, we are very, very, very protective, empathetic, emotional about our employees and how we can evolve them and get their mindset to remain positive during these times. All happening in the same way. Sometimes things happen for a certain reason, and we are taking it in a very pragmatic way that this could have happened. Good thing about Tata Group is Tata Group has faced a global pandemic in 1928. So there's a lot of learnings. Tata Group has faced 2 world wars. So there's a lot of learnings. That in itself, we of course go back to the drawing board and see what did they do in those times. At least the thought process is important. Instrumentation is different, the world is different. The thought, the attitude, capabilities, and the core attributes and principles of impacting human lives, and the trust which Tata Group represents, those can't be compromised. So yeah, that's where we are.
So can you give us any specific examples of digital innovations at Tata which were either caused or accelerated by the corona pandemic, and where you also see potential for future post-pandemic growth?
So I'll give you an example of a few things. Like I don't want to give you very specific, because these are themes which we are rolling out. So if you see in automobile sector is primarily automobile, healthcare. So healthcare is a very good example, automobile and retail. Give you 3 sorts of themes. See what we can't do. The shops, the retailers, the malls, the outlets don't have people going in, right? There has been a complete downhill of traffic. People are not going into, car showrooms, or they're taking flights or hotels. How can we remotely engage? So like the whole world is evolving into a remote healthcare, consultation via VCs and consultation via audio, access to your healthcare or doctors, COVID or non-COVID. The problem which we are seeing everywhere in the world is I can't go to a hospital because I might be healthy and I might have an issue with my back or my leg, but the paranoia of getting infected, of going to a hospital, still retains in people's head. So how can we address that use case? By building a platform which can remotely give assistance and confidence. Even in case of cars, right? I mean, India is a very different market when it comes to automobiles or retail. Organized retail in India is new. How can the customers still engage? There's an upsurge of e-commerce, which is during COVID period, which is happening. How can remote consultation help assisted selling in retail? How can people do remote consultation in thinking about the capability of buying something? The buying behavior is continuously getting analyzed. And we are taking some initiatives, very early days, but those are the thinking.
On this long journey from industrial conglomerate to more consumer-facing tech company, where do you stand today, and what is the next milestone, so to say?
I think the next milestone from the technology companies of Tata Group is primarily to focus on implementation and contextualization of data. We have so much data, we have so much customer data, we have so much context data, is to ensure that we use artificial intelligence ethically. Ethical usage of AI is extremely important. We mine the data, but we give the power of the data to the consumer of how they want to use it. India is going to soon see something like a equivalent of GDPR. So the data becomes the key instrument and the astra, or you might call the big instrument in the hands of the consumer. It is always going to revolve around customers. So whether it's artificial intelligence to contextualize, whether it's hardcore data science and data modeling to give the customer the best offering, or primarily organizing in B2B space how the companies are modeling their P&Ls. So this is where we are moving the mindset of our employees and trying to slowly win over the customer in this parlance, which is a very new, different dimension, which used to not exist maybe 10 years back.
So if we look further into the future, what is the blueprint for a transformed Tata? Should we imagine it to look somewhat like Amazon or Alibaba?
No, so we will never be Amazon, more importantly, because they have championed on commerce, and then they have got powered by hosting and entertainment. So, and of course, now they have come into payments. See, our Tata Group is arguably the most varied group in the world. We have got organized retail, we have got FMCG, we have got consumer products, we have got B2C financial services, we have got healthcare, we have got a lot of healthcare and hospitals, we have got manufacturing in steel and other, we are coffee makers, we also are aviation, we own aviation, and we have a lot of hospitality in large hotel. So our industry spectrum is actually very varied. So it's not easy to have so many industry spectrums as part of the group to have one blueprint. So we have a concept of clusters, and these clusters have got a blueprint to move forward in a digital ecosystem, but still impacting lives and ensuring the value of what we are selling to every customer is at the right attitude, at the right capability, which actually keeps the customer loyal to the Tata Group. Because we are so completely varied from one spectrum to the other, from financial services to healthcare to aviation to hospitality. So spectrum is endless when it comes. So it's a blessing because we don't have to create that industry because it has been created over the years, over the decades.
We have a question from STARS alumnus Friedrich Haas about China decoupling and the redundancy debate. So he's asking, India is criticized for not providing the same level infrastructure to foreign business. What's your opinion? Is Tata's digital development a good example for a vibrant and rapidly developing digital infrastructure? And if I may add a question, maybe a bit more broadly, do you see any opportunity for India and India's tech sector in particular to benefit from US-China decoupling and strengthening its own position?
So I'll answer Frederick's question later. Let me answer your question. I think India has championed the technology industry for the last 2 decades. In the servicing technology in the industry, we have had organizations like Wipro, Infosys. We have had organizations like Tata Consultancy Services, TCS, and India has now become the hub for global American conglomerates like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Facebook, who are actually having engineering headquarters in thousands and thousands across large cities. Note, India is a subcontinent which is almost physically the size of Western Europe, and it's at 1.4 billion people. And India's average Indians age group is under 35. So I will say that technology, India has already got championed. A lot of technology expat Indians are always in Europe and US and everywhere building. If you see how India's engineering ecosystem in Google and Microsoft and Facebook is in Redmond or Mountain View or Menlo Park, it's astounding. It's almost 50–60% are Indian employees. The second part, I like Frederick's question, is concerning in China decoupling and redundancy debate. India is criticized for not providing the same legal level of infrastructure. That is true though, because you have to realize India's independence is just 70 years old. India's infrastructure has started to be grown. In the last decade, we have had the opportunity to have 4G. We have had the opportunity to have penetration. It's 10,000, it's 900 towns and 10,000 villages. So it takes time. The infrastructure is getting built. The government is exponentially investing in technology infrastructure, data centers, optical fiber line of broadbands. China's GDP growth is around 14%. India before COVID was trending around 6.5 to about 8. We are going to still be behind China, but we are going to be ahead of a lot of others because of the velocity and the age group of our millennial generation, which is half of the country. So yeah, I mean, China is a game setter. We know China has established a baseline. Now we know what baseline to chase as a country.
We have another question from Prakash Rohera, who is a director at the Redwood Edge. He's specifically asking about the 2 biggest barriers we have faced while going digital.
Biggest barriers I have faced before in the group or before when I was in large technology conglomerates is the mindset. To a technologist, they can visualize. To a business P&L owner who has done business in a certain way, it is never easy. There is always this debate and misalignment between technology and business. I think technology industry has to take accountability that the business, without impacting, if they have to transform, what is the additional growth revenue, efficiency, cost efficiency? Are these operating models getting met by digital transformation? If it has, then it's subject. So the two biggest barriers I have faced is probably the mindset of the business leaders and the technology leaders aligning together. And the second is the old world waterfall thinking. Everything is sequential. To move into a very agile, aggressive, agile way, we build something, we try, we fail, we build something again. Not wait for something to come after 6 or 8 months. Every week is a new piece of kit or a functional module or a capability or a process change. We try it, we see its adoption. If it gets adopted, great, we move on to the next. If we don't see it get adopted, we fail, we try and do it again. So this whole world of waterfall versus agile and the business and the technology mindset change of adopting digital as a core competency of the business is the two barriers I have faced and I still keep facing.
We have another question from STARS alumnus Rio Trento. He's asking whether you can give one or two specific examples from Tata's core business, how you differentiate yourself from other digital competitors.
See, we are not a digital group. We have 112 organizations. To answer Rio Trento is you have to understand Tata is not one company. Tata is 112 companies, 7.5, as you said, million people work, employees. Digital transformation in Tata Steel is very different to a digital transformation in my aviation, airline, Air Asia or Vistara is completely different. To healthcare is completely different in our Tata Memorial Cancer Hospitals. Robotic surgery is treated as a digital transformation and achievement in Tata Memorial, where cancer research and cancer surgeries are happening. Booking part, the booking efficiency of online, offline in an aviation is a transformation and a digital capability. Whereas in Tata Steel, if I can optimize my production by launching 1,500 sensors and manage through drones my blast furnaces of Tata Steel and see the efficiency, those are what we are talking about. It is never 1:1 fitment because we have got about 10 to 15 plus industry verticals. So those are the three examples, if that answers Rio Trento's query.
We are already starting to run out of time, but I tried to take a couple more questions. Here's another one from STARS alumna Stefanie Züllig. She writes, fully agree on using data ethically when using AI. How do you ensure this process? How do you select the people who should be involved? And what is your current experience?
So I think I can mention that in last week, Springer took our Springer Publications platform, took a very strong view in launching a new platform and a journal, which is the usage of AI and ethics. There's a 60 people team, which has been formed, and they are going to govern the policies. We have policymakers, we've got political analysts, AI enthusiasts, technology evangelists, hardcore techies. This group probably is a good example of how ethical usage of AI will be documented, drafted, and spread across on awareness for various government agencies and many others. So these sort of platforms needs to evolve more, where people can stand up and say, there will never be again a Facebook Analytica. There will ever be again Facebook or Google will never be investigated for a Senate inquiry on snooping into Android phones. These are hardcore reality. This is out in the public. And those three organizations, if you leave them aside, every organization wants to use AI. It is And AI is also getting a lot of bad press. The impact and invention of AI was to basically make life simpler, make people's life efficient, make people's life far more healthier, far more impactful. The ethical usage of AI is nothing but governance and cadence which is required. And I think it will organically happen accordingly, like platforms like what Springer is doing.
We have another question from Uli Birch about online education. In order to develop further, it is crucial for countries to improve and adjust their education systems. Is Tata or Tata Digital involved in any kind of online education? How do you see the development of online education in India in general?
Very, very big. Online education in India Tata Group is invested in education. Tata Trust does a lot of work. We have a program called Internet Sathi. Sathi in Hindi means friend. That reaches out to over 20 to 35 million. It is a collaboration with Google to every women across every villages in India, to teach them how to use the internet and how to use the internet to learn basic education. That program has been extremely successful. Indian online education has pivoted thanks to organizations like Byju's, thanks to organizations like Top Scholar, where millions of people are subscribed and doing online. COVID basically has proved that every school in India are every day running classes from 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and through Teams and Zoom and Blue Jeans using these platforms. It is now a part of your day-to-day lives. It used to exist, but COVID just pivoted it to a next level.
The next question comes from Nepal, from STARS alumnus Bikash Gurung. He is the president of the Robotics Association in Nepal. His question: how is philanthropic philosophy helping Tata to reach its peak?
It is the core principle of the Tata Group. All of our profit go to the leader, to the parent company, and through the parent company, all our philanthropic causes are sponsored, all our philanthropic causes are powered, and from Tata Trust, for like the Internet Sathi example, to cancer research, research on social sciences, research on many areas of healthcare, and to improve people's life. Tata is synonymous to the country for the last 150 years. Philanthropy is crux to what the group does. We don't build businesses, is what our emeritus chairman, Mr. Ratan Tata, says. We build industries, and we are a nation building group, is the mantra we use. We are always, every Indian in the country is dependent on what and how Tata behaves. They say there is a stats that during the day, every Indian is touched by a Tata brand more than 20 times in a singular day. So making lives better, making lives prosperous, and ensuring that it is not all about profit. It was never all about profit. It is extremely important how Tata Group impacts the lives, because we are a nation building group.
I have two final questions, if you allow.
Yeah, of course.
You just mentioned that Tata is a nation building group. So if you had the power to magically change and implement one government policy in India, which one would it be and why?
See, the government policies in India has progressively grown in the last quarter, in the last 2 years. They have come out with very progressive, bold moves. The challenge is, some of these we all were apprehensive of. Some of these we were, example, the demonetization, you guys have all heard. Example, certain few laws in religious parlance, in certain few capabilities. These were pending for decades. Now, right now, after you implement something, you observe and monitor. This is the time we are observing and monitoring how it is getting adopted. Once you see adoption, then you see the success or the failure metric. Right now, we are in that middle path where we are seeing whether it's getting adopted by a country of 1.4 billion. And I think the policies keep changing based on the ruling government which is on power. You know, Obamacare came through, but Obamacare just took a backseat when our current president of America came. So policies we have to be very cognizant about. What are we keep making policies with entire country adopting and saying yes? That's a successful policy. When there are policies related to at the lower level of the strata, if that gets adopted, that's a successful policy. A lot of policies have had a lot of positive effect, I must say so. Couple of things I would want to change is India's lasting, I wouldn't say greed is a very strong word, everlasting aspirations to follow the West. Indian ecosystem, Indian civilization is thousands of year old, like UK or some others, like Byzantine or Mesopotamia. Indian civilization goes back in time. There are some value system which is there, some belief systems. I wouldn't want our policymakers to get influenced by what is right now working. Those have got compromised over India's history. I think a certain amount of that is coming back. Let's see how it moves.
Final question. In your CV, you mentioned hoverboard, lunar missions, and smart cities as some of your interests. Are these just your personal hobbies, or are they also Tata priorities?
No, smart cities is a Tata Group, which I am not involved right now, but hoverboard is a personal hobby. I'm continuously racking my head to create something which, and I think a lot of people have been able to do some successful hoverboard, but the challenge is I don't want to build something which will never get massively adopted. Yes, so I keep helping more and more researchers, universities who are doing some inventions and innovation in avionics, in gyroscopy. That is where my hobby is. But I think we'll get to a state in the next 3 to 5 years where we'll build something which will have certain amount of adoption in an industry where flying human, we know what Frank Zapata is doing and the organization in UK is doing, where there will be a monetization model and an adaptive model of the usage of these far-fetched futurism of flying. So we will leave it at that today.
With that, I would like to thank you very much, Sauvik, for sharing your perspective with us. It was a real pleasure talking with you, and I'm sure we can all learn from your insights. Thank you, Sauvik.
Thank you so much, David, and thank you everyone for listening to me. Stay safe and remain healthy. Thank you.
I'd also like to thank all our alumni who joined this webinar today. In the next STARS webinar on the 25th of June, in a week from now, we talk with Lim Seong Guan, former group president of Singapore's sovereign wealth fund GIC, about his personal lessons learned as a top C-level leader and his vision of how the role of leaders is changing today. I hope to see you there. In the meantime, take care and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, David. Bye.